started.
Hoopla. Hoopla kicks off with d4. Well, let's try knight f6. I'm going to play a Grunfeld if I get a chance. We're going to see what we get. Lots of people these days have been playing knight to f3 there. But here we get a traditional kind of queen's pawn opening. Right here. I have to play d5 right here. Otherwise he can play e. Otherwise he can play e4. And now he can play e4. So it looks like, yeah, we're going to get a mainline Grunfeld. I don't think I've had one of these in the channel. The last few times I've tried to play the Grunfeld, people have avoided the main line. But this is it, the normal way of playing. White gets a big center and black tries to undermine it, and also has a lot of tactical possibilities, particularly involving the bishop on the dark squares. And that's the way I play it. This is kind of an old main line. Knight to f3 I think is more popular these days, but this allows knight to d2 when you develop the bishop first. Okay, well he's defending this way. That's interesting. The queen can come out to the queen to b6 hits the bishop. If he defends it with the rook, I can take the pawn, but then the bishop can move with tempo. Interesting. I'm going to castle here and think about it. Maybe knight knight to yes, we did play knight d2. I'm going to play knight to c6, putting more pressure on the d pawn. Get a few more things out before I go on a queen adventure. Queen to a5 is looking interesting for the pin on this pawn. Pawn takes, knight takes, knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes, queen takes. Yeah, he's got just enough force to support this pawn. Now there's no pin. And queen b6 is met by rook b1, defending the bishop. Queen c7 maybe. Now there's potentially some tactics against the bishop on c4, which is loose. This bishop on c4 is loose. So pawn takes, knight takes. He can take back with a knight of the bishop, and then I can grab the bishop. And that wins a pawn, right? So let's see what he's coming up with. Usually the move is rook to c1. That's a standard move to guard against that tactic. The other idea is just retreating the bishop or pushing on with d5. Bishop d3 or pawn to d5 are all ideas here. He goes e5. So now pawn takes, he takes with the knight. I can pin it with the rook. Maybe rook here first. Yeah, that pinning is a little too slow. So now once again, pawn takes, knight takes. He can take with either the knight or the bishop, and I grab his bishop. And he can defend against it with rook c1, which he plays. Okay, what else? Now I can play b5. I want to be a little bit careful, because if I take now, it opens up the file to my disadvantage, whereas before it opened up the file to my advantage. But you know what he didn't do is he didn't defend the e-pawn, so I can just play knight takes e5 here, right, because of the pin on the d-pawn, and no other piece is defending it. There's always tactics in the Grunfeld. Maybe that's an overstatement, but that's what I've discovered, and what I like about it now that I've been playing it a little bit, is just when you think your position is going downhill, you discover some tactic is appeared out of nowhere, seemingly. So I think this is working. What can he do to disrupt this pin? He doesn't have a bishop on this side to come out to f4 to counterpin, because his bishop is over here. The bishop on b2 is a bit unusual in the Grunfeld. I haven't seen that. I've not seen that before. Because I think maybe it's more useful on this diagonal, the c1 to h6 diagonal. Okay, Hoopla is starting to think here. He's got to move his bishop away, right? Yeah, just move the bishop. Now I can push on with c4, and bishop moves, and then I can play knight to d3, but probably c4, bishop c2, knight d3, and he just takes it. So where does this knight want to go? That's the question. Maybe he just wants to return. Now, he doesn't have to return right away. I need to develop my light squared bishop, so let's open up this diagonal and play bishop to b7 or a6. Bishop a6 is looking interesting for the pin on the knight. And bishop b7 is just a good square to look out at the king's position. Okay, he's unpinned, so I've got to move the knight now. I think it just goes back to c6. So he can take here and give me an isolated pawn, but I still have an extra pawn over here. I have an extra e-pawn. If he takes, I take. We have two isolated a and c pawns that are symmetrical.
Server announcement.
And notice I never want to take, because he'll take back and open up this file and have pressure on the c file. So it's to my advantage not to take here. So I'm thinking bishop a6 for my next move. Yeah, he took. And I'm just going to take back and keep this C file closed. There's also maybe rook b8 at some time. There he goes. So he's challenging on the D file. Let's go here. There's no pin on the knight anymore, and I think that the bishop may be more useful on b7, looking at the king. The king is kind of alone over there. So maybe knight to e4, knight e5 and queen c6, threatening mate. He's got knight f4.
Check.
Okay, all my stuff is still defended, I think. And the pressure builds on this f-pawn. I have the move e6. Does he really want to take everything off? If I take, he will take with the queen. Everything is still defended except for maybe his bishop. If I wait and let him take, he can take, and I will have to take back with the queen. Still not going to move it away. Maybe knight e4. Now the question is, where does that knight really want to go? Maybe the knight wants to go somewhere else than e4. How about if I play e6, and then, and then the knight e5 I was talking. e6, knight e7 to f5. It's perhaps an idea. If he takes, I'll take with the queen. And I've blunted his light squared bishop.
Check.
And from e7 the knight can go to either d5 or f5. Wow, he really just wants to take everything off. It's very strange that he should want to go into a endgame where he's just a pawn down. Very strange. Maybe he doesn't like my tactics. So now knight here for knight to d3, but he's just going to move his bishop back to c2, I guess, right? So still knight e7. Oh yeah. Well, I blunder my pawn right away. Okay, it's not as bad as all that. When he takes the pawn, I will take this pawn. He probably should have played c4 there. But I clearly messed up in some way because he's getting a pawn when he had no right to. No right at all. Okay, let's see. Can I blockade this pawn? Probably. And just bring my king out and start moving my pawns forward. Let's see how this ends. Let's see, all these pawns are on light squares, so my light squared bishop is available to defend them. My king over here can defend them as well. But I'm going to want to move them forward, so I'm going to first activate my king. The king in the center will threaten to round up the outside passed pawn here, as well as threaten to advance my pawns. So,
check. Check.
his pawn is hanging if he moves one more pawn forward. Okay, so he went after my pawn. Let's see. I can put a bishop here defending the e pawn, and the bishop can never be dislodged, right? So if I just advance here, and he goes here and goes after this one, that's 1, 2. So I go, he goes, I put my bishop here, he goes here, I go up, he goes after this one, I go up, and everything's protected. So I think it's all safe to play this way. He's going to play bishop f7, I'm going to play bishop to bishop to d5, and he's going to play bishop to g8, and I'm going to play pawn to h6, and then if he plays bishop to h7, I'm going to play pawn to g5. If he goes after it with this bishop, he did none of the above. Okay, so he's trying to keep my king in check. Let's see, I can go here and then go after this pawn, right? And now, what can he do? Can his king break through? So maybe I need to play my bishop here. Try and keep his king from breaking out through these squares. He can go there. I can drop back here. Yeah, he can still come forward. That's kind of annoying. I guess if his king gets all the way to e5, I can play my bishop back to c3 here, check, and he can't go forward. The light squared bishop ever moves off this diagonal, I'm going to grab the pawn. I'm going to stay on this diagonal to prevent it from advancing. Aha, so he has allowed me to come forward. I will come forward. Okay, let's stop and think. He's going to play the bishop here to block my bishop. I will take. He takes. And I have to move my bishop. Then he advances his pawn. I put my bishop over here. I'm going to end up with just these two pawns. He'll be able to gobble all of these pawns. So there's something better. Oh, I know. If he places his bishop here, I just need kind of a waiting move here. So is this a good move? I go to d6. He plays here. I put my bishop here on this diagonal, and he advances the pawn, and I come back to here. I think I get over in time, so I think this is an okay waiting move. So bishop to f2, bishop to f2 if he allows it, threatens actually bishop to g1 to h2 and winning a pawn over here. So he has to be a little bit careful about that.
Check.
Oh, he decided to check me. So now he's allowing me to get pretty active here. That's his plan. He's going to move the pawn forward using his bishops, and he's sealed my king off. Okay. I'm going to go for this diagonal and rounding up some pawns over here. I have this plan that if the bishop ever gets to a6 here, I'll play the bishop here, check, and take the pawn. And let's see if he has a way to prevent it. Maybe he does. Well, bishop here check, I will go to bishop b6 check, I'll go to b4. Aha, he's trapping my bishop. Let's see. Okay, well, let's gobble up his remaining pawns then, at least. I guess I have to play this. I can stop him from approaching my bishop. And but that lets him advance his pawn quite a bit. That's pretty annoying.
Check.
Yeah, so he goes there. Well, I can't go here. I can come back this way, I guess. Need to make sure I have the queening square covered. Okay, and now I can free my bishop. This is a problem. Let's think about it. He can't go here now. What he can do is he can play bishop here and then here. No, that doesn't work. He needed to do it earlier. He needed to get his bishop to b7 when the pawn was on a6. So there was no problem here. I can just keep pushing. Yeah, so this is winning for me now. Finally.
Check.
Just have to stay away from checks. It's check, check, check. I think I win here.
Check.
Yeah, hits the bishop.
White resigns.
Cool. Well, I won that game.
Incoming
That was a
challenge.
that was a tough end game, and I probably gave it away at one point. He probably had a draw, but I will take a look at that. The postmortem. See you guys later. Bye.